Okay, great. Thanks, everyone. So I would introduce a couple of key features here that I think are going to make a big difference to people driving the car and their perception of it as they drive the car. As you know, most cars don't improve over time, but the Model S, by virtue of these over-the-air software updates, actually does get faster, smarter, and better as time passes. And it basically, car just improves while you sleep. And when you wake up, it's got added functionality, enhanced performance, improved user experience, and it almost feels like driving a new car. So that's something, obviously, we intend to do into the foreseeable future. With version 6.2 of the software, we're really happy to introduce two key things that we think are really going to give drivers peace of mind and address, I think, the perception of range anxiety. I think most people, when they have a Model S, don't actually have range anxiety. That was the biggest comment I got when I announced these features. But it's helpful for people that don't drive Model S and may put their mind at ease. So the first of the two applications is what we call our range assurance application. And this is always running quietly in the background, even when navigation is not in use. And what it does is, in real time, it communicates with the network of Tesla Superchargers and destination chargers, discarding any that are in heavy use or inactive. And what it does is it warns you before you drive out of range. So it's the Tesla charging network has actually grown dramatically over the past few years, to the point where virtually the entire U.S. and Canadian population is in range, as well as Northern and Western Europe. Over the next 12 months, all of Europe and North America, apart from Northern Alaska, will be covered, as well as China, apart from sort of the Gobi Desert and low population areas inland. The Japan, main islands, and Southern Australia will be covered. So the navigation system shows you a map of the most convenient charging locations and guides you to the closest one. And it also factors in height changes, like having to climb over a mountain pass, and looks up weather and wind speed from the internet to determine range with extreme accuracy. So from a user standpoint, all the complexity is taken care of automatically. You don't need to think ahead or do any calculations. The software update makes it effectively impossible for a Model S driver to run out of range unintentionally. So the car will always take care of you. So I think that, in having that anxiety of, will I run out? Well, it's basically impossible to run out unless you do so intentionally. Like, you will have to, the car will actually double check, just check with you. You'll have to say, yes, I'm sure, twice before it's possible to actually run out of range. The second feature is a trip planner. So the Model S will now automatically navigate you to your destination by integrating the best charging options into your route. And as with range assurance, the car looks up the charging locations in real time, so it always has the most updated list and queries the Tesla Superchargers to determine their status. Essentially, you have a big network of cars communicating dynamically with a big network of chargers. The software then figures out the fastest and most convenient route to your destination, including how long to stop at each location. As soon as the car is ready to go, it will message you via the Tesla phone app. In a typical supercharger, times are maybe 20 to 30 minutes long, which works out well when you've been driving for 3 or 4 hours, as it matches the time needed to visit the restroom, have a bite to eat, or grab a coffee and be on your way. So you can imagine a typical journey, like maybe you might start out at 9 a.m., drive for 3 hours. By noon, you want to stop, hit the restroom, grab a bite to eat, and be on your way. And we position the superchargers at places where that's convenient to do. So it sort of matches what I call the convenience inflection point of long distance travel. I mean, there's maybe the rare occasion where somebody wants to drive nonstop for 10 hours and wear diapers or something, but that's unusual. So for almost any normal trip, the supercharging network and the time driven to time charging ratio works out really well. So the Tesla and the Tesla charging network provides free long distance travel to Model S owners. You just arrive, plug in, and it works. Then there's a couple other things that are kind of cool coming out in this release, which are worth mentioning. I think, as most people know, the Model S has the lowest probability of injury of any car ever tested, we're taking that further by adding important active safety features. So this release includes automatic emergency braking, which will engage in the event of an unavoidable collision. And this is a feature that will be in all Tesla cars going forward. In fact, it will be enabled for all cars that were manufactured from October of last year. So this is a standard feature in the Model S. And I think it's going to be extremely powerful in saving lives to have every car we produce have this active emergency braking feature. So I think that's really important. Also, some basic things like blind spot warning and side collision warning will be enabled on this release. We already have front collision warning enabled. And we're also making good progress on auto steering. So version 7, I'll give you a sort of sneak peek on version 7. Version 7 is going to have well, first of all, it's going to have a complete UI overhaul because you kind of need one given the way the car is going to interact with you in the future. And it will, of course, include auto steering. And we're pretty excited about the progress we're making there. Our main test route that we're evaluating is the San Francisco to Seattle route. And we're now almost able to travel all the way from San Francisco to Seattle without the driver touching any controls at all. So that's pretty exciting. Obviously, this is a feature which requires a lot of validation testing, but we're hopeful that we could start releasing the first sort of auto steering features in about 3 months or so. Along with that, we'll also have something that I alluded to at the dual motor event, which was the ability to summon your car. So as long as you're on private property, because this is not legal on public roads, you'll be able to pull out your phone app and summon and press the summon button, and your car will come and find you. So I think that's kind of a neat feature. You'll also be able to sort of press that button again, and the car will put itself to bed in the garage. So it'll go over to the garage, put itself in there, and close the garage door. So I think that's kind of a fun thing. And then there's a whole host of smaller enhancements. We've improved the audio codec for all cars, so both the standard and the ultra hi-fi version of the car. We've rewritten the audio codec to make the sound better. So I think it's going to have a really good, really noticeable improvement in sound. I think it's already pretty good, but it's going to be even better. Also improvements in radio reception. We've taken direct control of about 100 parameters that are used for the radio reception system, and retuned the radio. So we should, Model S customers should have improved radio reception of terrestrial radio. And then one last thing is valet mode. We've got kind of a cool valet mode which automatically limits speed, torque, and confidential information. It's real easy to enable, and and there's a ton of other things as well, which I won't get into. We've made nuanced improvements to the feel of the accelerator and brake, and all these will be in the release notes. But the key feature really is addressing people's concern that they might run out of range inadvertently, and by the car constantly assessing whether that will occur and making sure you know about it, and being able to do these long distance trips in a super optimized way. I think we really address those. All right, thanks. We can go to questions now.
Thank you. And as a reminder to our reporters, you may ask a verbal question during the live Q&A session. Please click on the raise hand icon below your name. And our first question today comes from Harry Tucker with news.com Australia. Harry, please go ahead.
You mentioned fixing range anxiety as fixing sort of an image problem with electric cars. In Australia, in particular, that seems to be a big problem with electric cars. What other ways are you trying to address the traditional image of electric cars that have been set from sort of older cars that aren't as exciting or can't go as far?
Well, it's funny actually. Our sales of Model S in Australia have been surprisingly good. I've been pretty happy with our progress there, and it seems Australians really do like the Model S quite a bit. And as a result, we're putting a a significant investment in superchargers in Australia so people can get the super fast charging capability. They're working on this with obviously like Sydney to Melbourne as being one of the key routes. Eventually, I think you'll be able to go anywhere in Australia with the superchargers. But I think that the software I just talked about, where the car will always warn you before you go out of range, and the car will calculate the optimal trip are really key things that'll make a difference to people. Just knowing you can never run out of range accidentally is really important. And, like a lot of people wonder, like, do we have enough range with the car as it is? Maybe more range would be better. But actually, if you took out the longest range version of our car, which is the 85D, that's got a highway range of about 280 miles at 65 miles an hour. So you figure that's basically you'll be driving for 3 to 4 hours at that speed, and on a freeway. And then if you're in city, and you're driving, typical average speed in a city is like 25 miles an hour. So you'd be driving for like 10 hours in a city. So it's really not like adding a bunch more range would make a huge difference here, because it's matching the max trip time to max wait time inflection point. I mean, a little more range would be better, sure, but it's not what makes the difference.
Correct. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. And our next question comes from Deanne Durbin at the Associate Press. Deanne, please go ahead.
Hi, thanks for taking the question. As you add more charging stations, the system, I assume, is going to update those automatically, and will that happen at a certain frequency? And also, the feedback you get, when people who are able to buy a Model S don't buy one, is range the thing that they most frequently cite?
Yeah. To answer your first question, the car actually looks up the charging stations in real time. So every time it does this query, which is I think about once every 30 seconds or so, it's actually looking at a real time list, and it's not just is this the current list of chargers, but it's actually communicating with the superchargers and assessing their status. So it can actually tell the second, or within, say, 30 to 60 seconds, if something would happen to a supercharger station that would make it inactive, it would immediately know that and then reroute you to a different one.
Okay, great.
So it is a totally different concept, that you've got intelligent charging stations and an intelligent car communicating dynamically in a big network.
Okay.
That's never existed before.
Thank you. And our next question is from Tim Pollard with Stuff Magazine. Tim, you may go ahead.
So I'll also just answer the second question, which is range one of the issues? Range is generally one of the issues of that people have about electric cars, and it is an important thing to address really emphatically, and that's what we're hoping this release will go a long way towards doing. Sorry, your question?
Yes, hello. It's Tim Pollard from Car Magazine in the UK. Just sort of two quick questions, if I may. One is the UI change. What can we expect from that in version 7? And is it possible to have a quick update? I've not heard about the Model X for a little while. It's a little update on the timings of this and maybe whet our appetite with what we can expect there.
Sure. I mean, I do want to focus the questions on the specific subject matter of this, of this software release. So I'll only spend a little bit of time on things that are not related to that. The UI change is it's in keeping with the sort of newly enabled software. So if you imagine that the car is becoming sensor aware, more and more sensor aware. We're kind of waking up the car, if you will, and increasing its capabilities over time. as we turn on these sensors and the car is sort of more awake and aware, you want to have an interface that reflects the way the car sees the world. And that's about as much as I can say right now. But it is a significant change in the UI paradigm that will take place.
Okay.
Yeah. And then Model X, well, X is going to be coming out this summer, so I think people will be pretty excited about it. And it's got some elements in it that people haven't seen so far in the show car. It's a better car than has been seen so far as the show car.
Great, thank you. And our next question is from Paul Leonard with Reuters. Go ahead, Paul.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
I can, yeah.
Okay. Excuse me. General Motors and others are working on new electric cars that are expected to get 200 miles or more between charges. So I have two questions. What impact will that have on consumers' issues with range anxiety? And maybe more specifically, what impact will that have on Tesla's plans for the Model 3 and new products beyond that?
Yeah, I'll just touch on that question because it's not super related to the topic of this announcement. But I do think that 200 miles is kind of a minimum threshold for an electric car. But it does need to be a true 200 miles. So it can't be 200 miles, if you're traveling at 55 miles an hour on level ground with the air conditioning off, in warm weather. It's got to be 200 miles that you can count on. So I think that's an important factor. And then I think that's kind of a passing grade. Anything below that, I'd say is probably not a passing grade. But ideally, people are looking for a bit more than that. I'd say at least 20 to 30% more than that. So that's why we tend to favor a range above 250 miles and closer to 300 miles as being what people really find convenient. Now, once you start to go much beyond that, if you could conceivably have like a 500-mile battery pack. If we wanted to, we could create a 500-mile battery pack right now. But then on balance, the driver is carrying around a lot of unused capacity in the pack. So the marginal utility of, let's say, going from a 400-mile range to a 500-mile range is pretty low. And then you've got all the cost of that and the weight of that larger battery pack. So there's kind of a sort of a sweet spot, I think, around the 250 to maybe 350 mile range. That's really ideal.
Perfect, thank you. And our next reporter is Mike Ramsey with Wall Street Journal. Please go ahead.
Hi, thanks for taking the call. I'm primarily interested in understanding what makes it possible when you engineered the vehicle to do these kind of dramatic updates. Like I know that at the NVIDIA conference, Jensen talked about putting in very powerful processors in the vehicle, but it seems like, in my estimation, this is the thing that separates Tesla from everyone else and that currently is operating in a big way. What is in the vehicle when you designed it that makes it possible to do these sort of updates?
Well, I mean, we really designed the Model S to be a very sophisticated computer on wheels. And Tesla is heavily a software company as much as it is a hardware company. We're a huge part of what Tesla is a Silicon Valley software company, and we view it like in the same way that you view updating your phone or your laptop. And just as people have come to take it to be normal to assume that your phone and your laptop are going to keep improving, that's the approach we've taken with the Model S. It is a fundamental paradigm shift from the way cars have been done in the past, where they're sort of quite static, and software really got a distant backseat. So we just approach it in a really different way.
Thank you. And our next question is from Kristen Korosak with Fortune.
Hi.
One was on the range assurance, sort of a technical question. You mentioned that it would warn drivers and sort of steer them towards the superchargers that aren't being heavily used. But I'm wondering, will it also give drivers an estimated wait time on at a particular supercharger if they decide that they want to go there?
Yeah, I mean, our goal is generally to have a wait time of 0. So if and to also have multiple superchargers along a given route, so that the car will actually query the superchargers, see which ones are busy, and route you to the one that isn't.
I had
Sorry.
I had one other question. Just I'm wondering how this might help with some of the perception problems about China, and whether you see this as just one more step to improving the perceptions there, or are the problems in China sort of run deeper? Are they more widespread? Is it sort of a different? Does it go beyond just the standard range anxiety issues?
Well, range anxiety is certainly a significant factor in China, and we've actually proportionately added more superchargers in China than anywhere else in the world. So, and not just between cities, but even within cities like Beijing and Shanghai. So I think the supercharger will actually be very impactful in addressing range concerns in China. And we've taken a number of other steps to provide Model S owners with adapters for using virtually any charge location in China. So, and those have only just gone out. So I think the impact of that is yet to be seen. So that I think will be quite impactful. Yeah, I'm fairly optimistic about China long term. We're already seeing some steady improvements in China, so I think it's on the upswing.
Okay.
And our next question comes from Daniel Sparks with Motley Fool. Please go ahead.
Hi, thanks for taking my question. The storyline of having these destination chargers included as for the owners is a new thing here. So I'd just like to get a little more clarification on that. When it's rerouting owners, does the software favor supercharging over, for instance, a wall connector at a supercharger?
It does, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, good question. Yeah, it absolutely does. So it's going to look at what charges at the availability charges and definitely favor a supercharger over a wall connector or destination charger, unless it happens to be at your destination, in which case, of course, it's very convenient. Right. But in fact, I'm glad you brought that up, because I should have mentioned an ongoing program we have where any hotel or restaurant that has sort of Model S customers as clientele can actually request a wall connector charger from Tesla, and we'll provide it at no cost, provided they put that charge location in sort of a prominent and convenient location at their hotel or restaurant. So this program has actually been underway now for several months, and so I think it's now it might be approaching several thousand destination charges throughout Europe, North America, and Asia, and it's going to keep growing. So there's a huge network of Tesla destination charges that's growing that people don't even quite realize is there, and that I think is going to be even more so over time.
Okay, and then if I could just get a follow-up on that, over the longer term, how do you guys envision destination charging relative to supercharging? Is it something that you see as far as quantity of locations? You said you're already at over 1,000. So is this something you see as much bigger than superchargers as far as the quantity of locations over the long term?
I do. I think that we probably see long term maybe a factor of 10 more destination chargers than superchargers. So that, I mean, they'll be virtually everywhere.
Okay, great, thanks.
Wonderful, thank you. And our next question is from Phil LeBeau with CNBC. Phil, please go ahead.
Hi, Elon. I want to ask you about the next software update that you gave us a little tease about regarding auto steering and your test drives between San Francisco and Seattle. Are you saying that essentially your test drives that as soon as the drivers get in the vehicle, pull out of the parking lot, and the whole trip up to Seattle, they're essentially not touching the steering wheel or having to control speed or steering or braking or anything, or is it primarily just on the highways?
Yeah, good correction there. It is technically capable of going from parking lot to parking lot, but we don't. We won't be enabling that for users with this hardware suite because we don't think it's likely to be safe in suburban neighborhoods, at sort of the 30, where people are traveling 30 miles an hour and there's no lane markings and there could be kids playing in the street. So for the auto steering will really be enabled once you're on a highway or major road.
And a quick follow-up, have there been any, or what discussions or concerns have been brought to you, or have you had discussions with regulators about in terms of when you put that software in your vehicle?
Yeah, we're in constant contact with NHTSA and other regulatory agencies around the world. And just to clarify the auto steering point I made, there's actually two areas where auto steering will be enabled. One is on sort of highways, major roads, and then the other is actually on private property at low speed, where the ultrasonic sensors can detect anything around the car and stop in time. In fact, at low speed, just using the ultrasonic sensors, which is like basically sonar, the car can navigate in the dark. We could in principle have it navigate an underground maze, like a parking garage in the dark, just using the ultrasonics. So obviously we'll be using auto steering on private property at low speed in order for you to summon the car or send it back to its garage.
Great, thank you very much.
And our next question is from Will Dunn with Stuff Magazine. Please go ahead.
Hi. I was thinking that as Teslas become more popular, presumably there are going to be more people waiting to use superchargers. So are you planning to add a new supercharger for every 1,000 cars you sell or something like that?
We are, yeah. In fact, we're trying to stay well ahead of supercharger demand, so that we're actually sizing the superchargers for peak demand, which is typically when people do long distance travel, like on a Friday afternoon or a Sunday afternoon. So most of the week, the superchargers have massive excess capacity, because we size it for peak demand. And in fact, I should say, like this year alone, we're going to be approximately double our supercharger deployment. So this year alone will be more superchargers deployed worldwide than all prior years before this.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. And next we have Damon Lavrink. Please go ahead.
Thanks for taking the call. As far as the current software update is concerned, do you see a way for this to be adapted over time? I guess I'm looking for the sensors you guys have on board right now. What other features do you think are going to be able to be added using these sensors over the next two software updates?
Well, I don't want to give everything away. No, I have nothing to say at the next call. We've got to have another news story. I think what we're seeing here with version 6.2 is probably the large major update on version 6, and so the next thing would be the UI overhaul and auto steering with version 7, and there'll probably be a bunch of other features in there as well.
And we can expect all this stuff to be on the Model X, I assume?
Yes, absolutely.
Great, thank you. And we have our next question from Chris Woodward at USA Today. Please go ahead.
Yes, Elon, thank you. How close is auto steering going to be to a true self-driving car? You talked about self-driving cars just a day or so ago. Sounds like this feature takes one really close. I know some competitors require you to put your hand on the wheel every now and again. It sounds like you don't have that in mind here.
We don't have that in mind. We do want to. I think like actually some of the manufacturers have it kind of backwards. It's like if you take your hands off the wheel for a certain period of time, the auto steering stops working. But I mean, what if somebody's distracted or conceivably fell asleep or something? Then you don't want to have the car not steer. That seems backwards. So yeah, I mean, this is auto steering in the sense that it's or autopilot in some of the sense to an aircraft where there's certainly an expectation on an aircraft that a pilot is paying attention. I mean, you're not supposed to turn on autopilot and then go to sleep. So that there is an expectation that when autopilot on the Model S is enabled, that you are paying attention, but it should also take care of you if you have moments of distraction.
And how are you going to be certain that folks are paying attention?
Well, you can't be 100% certain. I mean, in fact, I would say right now in cars that don't have autopilot, I'm quite certain that there are times when people don't pay attention. So that that'll be true of when autopilot is active too. So I think we're still sort of we haven't made a final assessment on this, but one possible way to do it is to detect torque on the steering wheel, so that if we see the steering wheel is that there's no hand force on the steering wheel for some period of time, we might just issue a visual and auditory alert just to make sure you're okay. If there's sort of driver fatigue or something, to just to wake the driver up. So that's one of the possible avenues.
Thank you. And our next question is from Dana Hall with Bloomberg. Dana, you may go ahead.
Good morning. Is it fair to assume that the cadence of software updates is going to increase? Is 7.0 coming out definitely this year? And it just sounds like now that you've got this great capability in hand that you can roll out software updates more quickly, like twice a year, once a quarter. How often are you planning to do them?
Yeah, we're aiming for roughly every 3 to 4 months, apart from point releases. So occasionally there's a point release to address a specific circumstance. But in terms of significant feature releases, we're aiming for every 3 to 4 months.
Thank you. And our next question is from Lee Hutchinson with Ars Technica. Lee, please go ahead.
Hey, Elon. I have two quickies here. The first one is, when does 6.2 go live for customers with existing Model S's? And the second one is with regards to the range assurance feature. This is all dependent upon the car's existing 3G connectivity. Are you guys going to continue providing that for free, or are you guys eventually going to be charging for that?
Yeah, so all cars have minimum 3G connectivity. We're just rolling out LTE right now. And no, I mean, there will always be that connection as far into the future as we can imagine. So yeah, that's I mean, there are some constraints on like heavy usage for like video and music if it's like really heavy usage, but not otherwise.
Great. And then 6.2 with all these features is landing when?
So that is already in beta. So we have a set of customers that we release the software to for early access, to just basically have an open beta in the field, and so it's already out on that front. And assuming that the results of the open beta go well, so far it seems to be going pretty well. We'll start wide release in maybe 10 days or so.
Cool. Thank you.
All right.
And our last question today will come from Alex Davies with Wired. Please go ahead, Alex.
Hey, Elon, you mentioned the car will now consider things like elevation change and wind when calculating range. Can you also tweak that calculation to include things like if the car is going to be dealing with stop-and-go traffic, or even if it's hot out and someone wants to use the air conditioning on high?
Yeah, it takes into account it does exactly take into account usage of air conditioning, which is that's not a huge factor, but it can be sort of up to 8 to 10% depending upon if it's very hot or cold outside, and then factoring in like the energy usage that the car is seeing. So if it's in heavy traffic, for an electric car, heavy traffic is not nearly as big of a deal as it is for gasoline cars because gasoline cars always have the engine running. So that isn't too big of a deal going in traffic, but so certainly outside temperature, which is likely to affect air conditioning or heating usage, climbing over tall mountains, or having like a 60-knot headwind or something like that. Those all have material impacts on range. And what we're finding is when we factor all those things in and take the real-time data from the internet for things like wind speed and temperature, the accuracy is incredibly good. I mean, it's down, to the sort of 1% level.
Have you considered actually predicting traffic ahead and factoring that in as well for something the driver might encounter 20 miles down the road?
Yeah. That is something we do right now for drive time. So we integrate real-time traffic for drive time. I don't think we've integrated that factor exactly into the range calculation, but we don't tend to see that being a really big factor on the range accuracy prediction. That's it like really only tends to have a sort of quite small effect, and unless like somehow that traffic is bumper to bumper for like 6 hours or something like that. That could be a different situation.
Thank you.
But I mean, just to sort of give a sense for things. I mean, let's say you were in like heavy traffic with an average speed of 15, 20 miles an hour. I mean, the Model S could basically go for 20 hours at that rate.
Thank you, Elon.
Any more?
And thank you. Oh.
All right. Go ahead. All right.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us this morning, this afternoon, and this evening for some of you. Thanks for spending the time with us, and we'll do this again.